我哋中國人係唔怕食草嘅，咩關稅戰，咩貿易戰。啖好，見到未？醒啊！輸緊啊！
Okay, Chinese propaganda these days are reaching brain dead level, and I'm here to expose it. The CCP is trying everything with their tariff narrative. This news report is saying or claiming that Americans are physically flying to China to buy Huawei phones, clothing, and bags because the tariffs. First of all, no idea if the people in the photos are actually American or not. Are you telling me an American person is spending $1,000, the cheapest flight I can find on Google Flights, on a 2-week trip to China, flying for about 20 hours or so, to buy a Huawei device costing $700 to $800, or buying a 65-inch Xiaomi TV apparently, and taking that with their checked luggage? I'm 200% sure that it's cheaper to pay the shipping cost and customs fee. How brain dead is this? For that price, a Huawei phone and a plane ticket, I can get a 1 terabyte iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now, they should just next claim that Americans are flying to China to get a whole appliance list: laundry machine, stove, microwave, granite countertops, dishwasher. It's not like Google Pixel, Samsung, or LG exist and available to US consumers, right? That couldn't be the truth. And this one is even funnier.
很多老外喷中国没有自由，哼，我在中国生活10年，中国自由，国外一辈子都学不会。走，在中国生活很方便，买一部手机就够了，扫码进站，在国外还要排队买票。在中国很多地铁站都是这么漂亮，都是这么干净，在国外到处都是垃圾，还有异味。你看。没想到地铁还有商务座，这边直接扫就可以了，是吧？哦，成功！哇，我以为我坐高铁。你看这个椅子，真的是，这里还有枕头，哎，这样可以睡觉。
This Western-looking person made a video claiming China has freedom, except he seems to think that convenience means freedom. Going to a train station to ride a train is apparently what freedom looks like. That's like saying, look, North Koreans have a subway system too. Oh, so that's where that democratic in DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, comes from. Jokes aside, just because you can order a Starbucks in your car doesn't mean you have freedom. You have convenience. Try saying how the CCP sucks. That EV will autopilot you to the nearest police station. Again, just kidding. But seriously, this type of confusion when trying to rebuke China has no freedom just further amplifies and confirms that China doesn't have freedom. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you click that subscribe button. We have videos like this every single week going into deep dives on China. And then we have this guy, a mukbang creator from China, who believes that the best way to get back at the Japanese is eating their buffet clean. After working out, he decides to take revenge on the Japanese devils, a derogatory term, and that is to eat as much salmon and seafood as possible. And I guess the best way to rejuvenate your national identity is snow crab legs and fresh salmon, which of course just comes off as extremely rude in people's eyes, like feeding into the idea that Chinese people have no manners at the buffet. And then we all have seen the propaganda around the trade wars, right? Factories are shutting down in China, but some people apparently are sticking with the CCP through and through, even if it means that they have to eat grass and tree barks again, like it's the 1950s.
我哋中國人係唔怕食草嘅，咩關稅戰，咩貿易戰。啖好，見到未？醒啊！輸緊啊！
And this video here shows the reality of China, affected by tariffs. And some Chinese factories have switched from exporting to selling domestically. But the price differences, they've dropped to essentially discounted wholesale price. This merchant named Wang Zitan said that he got Crocs-like shoes with holes for a few cents each, and these action figures that were exports to the United States before can now be sold for, of course, a lot more before, but now they're just, again, few cents each. And there's all kinds of clothes that were originally supposed to be exported, now being sold by the ton domestically. Now, who is buying that in China? Nobody is, because China's lacking consumerism too. This idea that America can't live without China, I think it's the opposite. China really can't live without America's consumption. And there's also the American egg propaganda. Now, eggs are crazy expensive right now in the United States because of the bird flu and inflation and everything else. People are obviously mad that you have to pay $6 for eggs, but China takes this to an extreme level of lying. On April 15th, China News Network posted a video on a domestic social platform about Americans being unable to afford eggs. However, internet users then discovered that the video was randomly splicing together pieces of different footage with people wearing short sleeves in one frame and then down jackets in another. The most surprising thing was that the two pictures of supermarket eggs, it shows Coles, which is actually a local Australian supermarket chain, doesn't exist in the United States, and the pictures were stolen from Australia, where the bird flu also caused an egg shortage not long ago. Now, like I mentioned, eggs are pretty expensive. I hate paying $6 for eggs, but I'm sure Americans aren't in an egg apocalypse yet. What else? Well, China halted Boeing jet delivery. Devastating, right? What they don't tell you is that Xi Jinping has a Boeing 747 for his version of the Air Force One, and apparently not the domestic COMAC C919. How come? For one, I think Xi obviously knows that Boeing is a lot safer than C919, despite all of the news that we've been hearing. And second, that the C919 is actually a Frankenstein of American parts. Where is it going to get the parts now that they put up this reciprocal tariffs? Well, secretly, probably. And of course, that plane that Xi Jinping flies in is in top-notch shape because they have to get the parts, right? Now, part of what I showed is all about this domestic idea of control. Get your own people drunk off of, the facade that China's doing great. Like this man here.
现在军事我们已经世界第一了，科技世界第一了，差一个文化必须世界第一。我们世界第一，美国世界第二，让他们一块儿整死美国，整死美国，我们就是人仗人。对，美国人均收入6万美元，折人民币40万，那都是我们的钱。你们为什么一个个现在过得这么抠抠搜搜的？因为那钱都在美国人手里边呢，对，他抢我们的钱。
Delulu. And before we continue, here's a sponsored segment from Gen X American Ginseng.
If you're like me, who spent hours in front of the computer reading, studying, writing, or even playing video games, expect that brain fog and fatigue to lift and energy to kick in fast with Gen X's American Ginseng Extract. This is the Gen X's American Ginseng Extract. It's a product I've used for almost 2 years now, and I take this daily. I actually do this right after breakfast. And it comes in two types. So you have the ginseng extract concentrate, and this one here, which is my personal favorite, the extract drops. It's so easy to use, and the benefit is tremendous. What I've noticed right after using this is that I immediately feel this boost of energy. I've noticed that right after using it, I feel more alert and awake. Like I've just taken another cup of coffee, but of course without the eventual crash. Another major benefit for me has been clearing up my brain fog from writing and researching for this channel. If you're a college student or a working professional, especially for a desk job, I think this product is exactly what you need. Because you know exactly what I'm talking about, when your headspace just feels full and you can't really think properly. The product is made with American ginseng in Ontario, Canada, and it has a higher concentration of ginsenoside, which is the actual chemical compound, which is around 8%, compared to many other brands available in North America, which they're usually around 1 to 2%. And Gen X's American ginseng extract has a high absorption rate of 95%. And since using it long term, what I've noticed is an improvement in my sleep, and it was very apparent because I had stopped using it for a week because I ran out, and I noticed a immediate drop in my sleep quality and post-sleep recovery. And if you're wrestling with high blood sugar or type 2 diabetes, or have trouble sleeping in general, catching colds, Gen X's American Red Ginseng Extract is definitely the product for you. So check out the link in the description and comment, use code DAVID for a 15% off and a free gift at checkout. And you can find free shipping to many places around the world.
Or we have this man here who got mad at a flag of Taiwan in Korea because he flew to Korea to play the Running Man game. Now, Running Man is a popular variety program in Korean television, and in that game, they showed Taiwan's flag when asked to identify the capital of different countries. He got really mad, and apparently he immediately canceled the rest of the trip and flew back to China. Now, how fragile do you really have to be to get your egos hurt like this. Obviously, I personally think that this type is more like a nationalism rage bait for views, which obviously is quite good of a business market in China right now. But then there's also these propaganda messaging targeting the foreign audience. For example, lately on TikTok and on other social media as well, there's been a sort of a public opinion warfare waged against, well, target audience, I would say Americans, but videos like this allegedly exposing luxury brands which are, in their claim, made in China. And these have been going viral.
At Hermes boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you step by step. First thing first, Hermes only use the leathers from the 3 top-level suppliers. One is called Beauty from Italy. The second is Weinheim from Germany, and the third is Glass from France. One piece of Togo leather, the same leather as this one, will cost 450 USD. And one piece of the leather is only enough to make one Birkin. Okay, hardware. See, this hardware is called 316 hardware. It's also known as the ocean stainless steel because it can withstand the erosion of seawater. It's the best stainless steel. For one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD. And then the cost of human resource. The French artisans is much more expensive than Chinese artisans. To finish one bag, the human resource cost will be 600 USD. The package. Now this is not that expensive, it's 10 USD. So now to sum those up, the total cost will be 1,400 USD for one Birkin out of factory. But why Hermes will charge you 38,000 USD for one bag? That's because more than 90% of the price is paid for its logo. But if you do not care about the logo, you just want the same quality, same material, you can just buy from us. Because for our bags, we use exactly the same material, same leather, same hardware, same edge oil.
Is it really true though? Now, we all understand that since the dawn of high fashion, there are a bunch of snobs who are selling the weirdest stuff, like this Balenciaga trash bag or this pigeon bag from J.W. Anderson that sells for 900 bucks. Yeah, that's a bag. But the point of the brands or the logo itself has never been about the price, but it's always been about the logo, or I should say the status of owning that logo. Now, this man does have a fair share of criticisms, which I obviously think is correct, in that these brands are upcharging their actual product at 100 times or 200 times the actual cost to make them. But these aren't even American products, they're European brands. So I don't even know how this is supposed to affect the opinion of the trade war aspect. Obviously, I know that some people are going to be affected because they do love a good Gucci bag or a good Hermes or whatever they're into, or Louis Vuitton. But I love what Derek Guy says on X here. He says, in the original TikTok video, the maker claims his bags are just like Hermes because they use the same materials. That's like me saying my spaghetti is on par with a Michelin-starred chef's just because we both use tomatoes and flour. In fact, skill matters more than materials. That's absolutely true. You and a pro football or soccer player can play the same ball or kick the same ball, and yet you both, well, one is a star athlete, the other, it's you. No offense. That's like saying you and LeBron James both play basketball, but one is LeBron and the other one is you. Tanner Leatherstein, who is an expert in leathercraft, also weighed in as well.
And this might surprise you, but his cost estimate is too high. And there are other inaccuracies in his original video, listing the materials and the cost of it. And he shows a leather that says Togo. But the leather there, this leather, is not Togo. The second thing he says is true. The material supply chain, everything is available in China. Yes, that is true. A lot of Chinese buyers drop $500,000 on one leather shipment in European tanneries to buy real Togo to make counterfeit bags. Stainless steel, the ocean steel hardware.
The hardware. See, for one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD.
Yes, that's the top grade hardware, and it's available in China. That's also true. But it doesn't cost $150. That's also padded. But then he adds up all these costs, saying that the total is $1,450. That sounds a bit steep to me because I was in Guangzhou last month. I've seen these top-level fake Birkins that is way better than the one he's showing in the video, and they were selling at $500, made with real Togo and stainless steel. So I'm assuming his exaggeration is to sell his fakes or dupes at a 3x multiplier, leveraging a trend now. And that's kind of where the problem starts, because if you're going to expose anything, if there's anything to expose, you better be accurate. And there's so many inaccuracies in this video that kind of makes me not to think much of this content. He also has a very accurate point where he says China has the skills and talent as well as the materials. That's absolutely true. But the problem is most of that talent is going to make fakes or dupes of these known brands. In my opinion, why not? China is producing their own designs, own brands, using these beautiful hardware, beautiful material they have, with incredible skill they have, all I know and believe, and sell that bag for $500.
Now, he made some great points. The leather and material, they're available to anybody. So why doesn't China just make their own luxury brand instead, instead of copycat and trying to steal designs from others. In case you don't know this, but in China they're really good at replicas of the actual fashion item, right? So they can make these Adidas sneakers that look exactly like the ones you can buy from Adidas. Obviously, both were made in China, but the idea here is that they can recreate that look, right? Now, obviously, there's still different qualities and tiers to these copycat counterfeit items, but in general, China is able to replicate the existing design. But the key issue here is that copycat is not innovation. Chinese people, they've been caught taking photos of luxury goods in stores in Europe, fighter jets, stealing designs. That's not power. That is not innovation. That is stealing. On Reddit, you have communities like Rep Fashion or Rep Sneakers. Now, they're very popular these days. The purpose here isn't to buy counterfeit products because they want to buy a logoless version of that item. What they're buying is the exact replica of that expensive piece of garment or shoe so that the person wearing this can feel like they can also achieve that status of owning one. Now, me personally in college, Yeezys, the 350s, they were so popular. I couldn't get them because, well, they were sold out everywhere. So I even ordered a few pairs from China. Is it because I want to support Chinese manufacturing or counterfeiting? No, it's because I couldn't afford the resale price and want to wear a pair of Yeezys. So this idea that instead of buying a $38,000 Hermes bag, we should all just be buying the $1,000 version from China instead, just without the logo. That is not a valid point of argument. It defeats the entire point of luxury fashion, which again, I don't really understand, but people just don't buy Hermes because they want to buy a quality leather bag. They buy Hermes because it's freaking Hermes. So I find this idea that, yeah, sure, I can also go to Portugal and get a pair of leather shoes for €100 that quality-wise or even style-wise looks the same as a pair from Louis Vuitton, but then I'm not wearing Louis Vuitton. So because certain brands have this reputation to back it up with the craftsmanship, durability, the quality, and if brands, simply aren't living up to that standard, they will eventually die. That's how reputations work. That's how credibilities work in the West. Same thing with men's suits. A Japanese tailor or even a Turkish tailoring gets you probably the same quality in design, in material quality, and everything else. But then, a British design or an Italian tailoring, it's much more known. Some things are just not about the money or even the material. It's about the craftsmanship. It's about worth of taking the time to build something. I think a lot of people go into fashion for that. Just like people buy iPhones and Mac because, well, it's a status symbol, yes, to many, but Apple products also come with great durability. So they build up that reputation. Take a Windows laptop to a Mac. A cheap Windows will die in 3 years. A Mac will last you a 10-year period. That's also another thing. Why are Chinese people, when they get rich, going to France or Italy to shop instead of Guangzhou factories if they can just get the same leather or the same bag, right? Just don't take it from me. Take it from South China Morning Post, a state-affiliated newspaper. Chinese consumers are known for traveling abroad to shop for luxury goods, given the noticeable price differences between overseas and domestic luxury markets due to tight Chinese customs control shutting out luxury brands with high tariffs. For instance, even before accounting for the VAT refunds, Chinese shoppers already find European luxury prices cheaper, with customers taking a liking to brands like Prada, Versace, and Gucci. Now, also, if you've ever been to a New York City 260 sample sale, you know exactly what happens there. There's always these Chinese live streamers with their phones and piles of clothes reselling to the Chinese customers. Why aren't those Chinese customers going to these factories instead? It's because brand value means something. Materials do not. Supreme could slap their logo on a brick tomorrow and it would sell out. Oh wait, they actually did that. Why do Chinese rich boys and girls want Lamborghinis and Porsches instead of Chinese knockoff Xiaomi SU7s, even though it looks kind of the same? And not to mention, the reality is not as the misleading videos would claim. Most of Hermes and a lot of the other sort of top luxury stuff like watches or shoes, it's the craftsmanship. It's what makes it expensive, and it's not actually made in China. Again, because, a lot of times the labor cost actually matters as a factor too. And of course the technology like the stitching and all these things or the threading. But the idea that somehow these high-end luxury items are reduced to made in China to justify that this trade war is not going where it should be, well, most of these brands aren't actually being harmed in this process. In fact, I think this whole idea about education on luxury goods it's good because it pushes these brands to be more strict with their quality, and it pushes these brands to innovate more too. But can the same thing be said about modern day China? Which luxury brand do you actually know from China that you're like, hey, I need to get this instead of a Gucci bag? So how do you feel about these propaganda videos? Were you affected by any of them? Let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching. Check out Jinx American Ginseng Extract in the comment, link in the description as well.